Significantly reduce or remove security risks by implementing quality solutions. Protection reduces exposure to loss over time. Observe sound risk mitigation principles. Let the science work for you.
Thank you. I'm calling security right now.
Good evening, and thank you for joining. A special welcome to our audience from the neighboring CARICOM territories. We hope you will find the information presented useful. The topic tonight is FinTech, a solution for the medicinal cannabis industry in CARICOM. FinTech is an abbreviation for financial technology. Now, let me just set the playing field. You may be wondering why a savvy term, a high-tech term, a IT-tech term like FinTech is applicable to the industry, the medicinal cannabis industry. We are all involved with it, so we all know that there are barriers to commercial banking. These barriers are caused by de-risking, which is basically the aversion of banks to open accounts, deposits from which are known to be the proceeds from certain industries. And the medicinal cannabis industry is one of those those industries. So let me just give you a very quick um, idea of what the banks face. All business activity is determined by a SWOT analysis, or strengths, opportunities, weaknesses, and threats. There's a con side and there's a pro side. Now, the challenges that the banks face is that they need additional resources for the monitoring of medicinal cannabis accounts, because there's a lot of rules and regulations. And our first presenter will get into those rules and regulations in detail. There's a potential for money laundering and terrorist funding. So that is a major risk, right? And these things can help to profile the institution into a sort of a bad zone. And of course, the major problem is an increased risk of losing the corresponding banking relationships to provide the transfer of funds across borders. Now, this study was done last year by the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, and therefore the environment is a very current environment. There are, on the other hand, though, some opportunities for the bank. So once you establish proper anti-money laundering and compliant frameworks, you can operate fairly safely. You, meaning the banks, the organizations, can operate fairly safely without having the issues that cause all these barriers to go up in the first place. So once they know their customer and they have the paperwork in place to protect them, to show due diligence, they are pretty much able to then get benefits from increased revenue for monitoring and fees for increased banking services offered to the community, or to the cannabis community, because of the increased banking activity. Now, before I get into introducing the panel, we're very happy to have a very experienced panel of experts with us here this evening. I just want to get into a little bit of housekeeping. At the bottom of your screen, from time to time, you'll see some tickers, which will give basic info on things you're supposed to do, or instructions that you're supposed to follow. The presentation will be divided into 3 segments, basically. The first segment will be run by Ms. Tina Sarnoff, who is the FinTech compliance professional, and she will deal with matters pertaining to that aspect of the program tonight. At the end of her segment, there will be a break for questions pertaining to everything that she has discussed, and we will answer those questions during that segment. We will then move on to segment 2, who is Mr. Christopher De Gregorian, who is a cash logistics professional, and he will tell you about the activities of that layer and how they tie into the FinTech to provide a total solution. Again, at the end of his segment, there will be a question period where the comments posed through the various social media platforms will be answered. The final section will be a business advisory section. Mr. David Joseph is slated to do that, but if he is unavailable, I will actually try to sum up what Christopher and Tina would have said, and try to focus what they have said into a meaningful business proposal for the audience. Now, the bios of each presenter will give their bios at the beginning of their presentation, and all that's left to say is a couple of other things. One, if you have if you're hearing impaired or you need closed captioning you will need to go on to the YouTube platform because that's the only one that does the closed captioning. And we hope that the voice recognition is good enough that it doesn't do a lot of mistyping of what is being said. Lastly, there will be a lotto at the end of the program. Persons who would have pre-registered for this webcast would be eligible to get the digital prize that we will be offering. Now, when you make your comments, could you please enter a capital Q before a question so that it is easily recognizable from general comments. And you may enter the hashtag or SSI Barbados after any comment or question, but you only need to do this once because that's all that's needed for the entry into the lotto. So really and truly, that's about it for the housekeeping. And at this point in time, it's my great pleasure to introduce Miss Tina Sarnoff, who is the consultant that will deal with FinTech, its structure, and the compliance issues. So without much further ado, you can give your quick bio up first, Tina. I hand over to Miss Tina Sarnoff.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Charles. I appreciate that. I would like to start with my bio, as Charles said. My background is in the financial services industry, in the securities industry as a compliance officer at a broker-dealer. And I was there for over 20 years, and I've learned a lot about compliance from the bottom up. And so when I accepted the position as the Chief Compliance Officer of Alliance Financial Network, it was with great competition, as you can imagine. The cannabis industry was fairly new in Colorado at that time, and that was in 2017. And I took the job with the anticipation of being able to establish some new rules and being able to learn as much as I could about cannabis and about the regulations that are governing those transactions that are done through the platform. I do have a presentation that I will put on now, and we'll start here. So as a little background, again, the company that I work for and I own is Expo Financial Services, a FinTech company. And what we do is we provide financial services accounts to businesses that are bank challenged. That can be anyone who is unbanked or underbanked, which does include many businesses in the cannabis industry and many other cash-intensive industries as well. The services that we provide are bank-like services such as e-checks, ACHs, and wire services. And the way that we do that is by having each customer fill out an application. And after the application process, we perform an internal risk assessment to determine whether or not the business is a good match for our business. After we have that first approval, we then send each customer a 2-year contract, and the contract will then guarantee, or at least in the interim, provide an account that each customer can hold for up to 2 years under that contract, as long as they do not commit any illegal activity. All transactions are monitored for any signs of illegal activity. About the company. So Alliance Financial Network was established back in 2015 as a FinTech company, and the platform that is used is called Expo, the Electronic Exchange Portal. And what we do is for members only who have been approved, and they are able to transact business on this network. We take the cash out of the economic system and protect the businesses and the consumers from crimes associated with cash industries. Well, a little background to just give you an idea of how we started and where we are now. So again, Alliance Financial Network was incorporated in Colorado in 2015 to offer the services that I've gone into. The software portal was designed to open accounts for businesses and consumers who we call Expo members. And those people are usually unbanked or underbanked, or they could also be any business that does not want to have a bank account for any particular reason. They may have lost many bank accounts and they are looking for a private banking system, or perhaps they just like the service that is offered by being able to pick up the phone and talk to the same person all the time. Vista Business Solutions was incorporated as a subsidiary of Alliance in May of 2019. At that time, it was decided that we were going to start using debit cards and offering a payroll system. And so we created a separate company to be able to provide that service. After the death of the owner of Alliance in 2021, I was forced to start to transition the company. I did not have the authority to act on behalf of Alliance Financial Network to the level that I needed. So I started a new company called Expo Financial Services to keep the name Expo, and that was done to serve the needs of the members who we still have. And so I'd like to start a little bit talking about high-risk businesses. The main things to do with particularly cannabis or any high-risk business is the compliance that is involved. It is very complex. For any cash-intensive business, there are forms that have to be filled out, such as currency transaction reports in the United States, as well as for cannabis businesses, there are suspicious activity reports that have to be filed, even if there is no suspicious activity. I know that sounds redundant, but unfortunately, the United States government has not caught up with the fact that cannabis is here to stay as a business, and they put a lot of pressure on the banks to fill out these forms. Most of the businesses that are considered to be high risk are also those cash-intensive businesses, and banks are not enthusiastic to open accounts for those businesses. I can speak from experience and tell you that one bank that I recently before they opened up the account, and after my first deposit, my bank account was closed. So I understand exactly what these businesses are going through. Fortunately, I have backup accounts at all times so that I am aware and prepared for the account being closed. There's also the cash-intensive businesses have crime associated with them, which is obviously we need to protect personal safety of those who are running the businesses. I've become aware of many times when people have to pay their taxes, particularly in the state of California, and they have to bring the cash to the tax agency, and that can be very dangerous for them. So we want to make sure that the cash is taken out of the system, and Christopher will talk a lot about that and how he protects that cash during the process of transport. A little about Expo. I'm not going to read that slide, but you can see that basically what happens is the Expo platform is a platform that was designed to take a $1 US and convert it to one Expo credit. There is no cryptocurrency here. There's no variable pricing. There's no chance that any of the funds are not going to be available when the customer is take the funds out. The application is available on Apple and Android, and every customer is assigned account number with their name on the platform, and that helps to
What background are you saying?
ensure that every customer is protected and only has credentials for their own account. And again, this solves the problem of large cash movement with an emphasis on the safety of the public. The application is called, and that stands for Electronic Exchange Portal. It is available on Apple and Android as Expo-Mobile Payments. And this one here on the side shows what the network is. So basically the network can be either an, which we have it set up right now as an open network where customers can, after having the transactions on their platform in their account, then they can send out a wire or a check or an ACH, as I said, to someone outside. They can also transfer funds or Expo credit to other Expo members. So it can be an open network or a closed network. We have allowed it to be an open network because when it started, it was a closed network. And we found that not only did we want to send money to other Expo members, but they also needed to be able to send it to the taxing authority or other vendors that they work with. So this is a visual of what that looks like. And you see the Smart Safe here. We are working on the debit cards, and it's also on an application on your phone. And so the types of membership that we offer are a consumer member. Obviously, the consumer member is a little different than a business member. A consumer can open up an account just by going onto the application and completing the application there. A business is given an extensive application, which is then reviewed for compliance. There's the on-site risk assessment, as I mentioned. We also have a third party that goes out, which is Christopher's company, and they can go out to the business. Depending on the business, we don't send someone out for all businesses, but depending on the application, we send out some Christopher's company or someone that he contracts with to go out and make sure that the business is running legally. We also can have a government account, and the reason why we did that is because we can integrate with many different point of sale software for the cannabis industry particularly, and that enables us to be able to collect the taxes and put them into a separate account. And then the government, whichever entity it is, can have funds sent to their Expo account for sending it to their for using. And there's ancillary suppliers, so that would be anyone that provides services to the members. It could be anybody within the process. Again, we don't only have cannabis clients, so it could be anybody in the process of a transaction. And the ancillary suppliers are paid by cash, e-check, wire, and ACH. And this is a little bit about the due diligence and enhanced due diligence, the know your customer. Again, I'm not going to read the whole slide. With my background in the securities industry, I was very intent on having as much compliance as a business owner could stand at the beginning of the process. So I could make sure that I was knowing who the customer is, what their intentions are, what to expect of a transaction, so that I see when I see something out of the ordinary, I recognize it, and also be able to help the business to get out of any kind of circumstance that they may get themselves into with a regulator. And this is another visual of the cash to the credit. Again, $1 equals 1 Expo credit with no fluctuation. It is not a cryptocurrency. It is a virtual currency, and the currency can be used for whether buying products or goods and services. We can help them with payroll or paying invoices, again, inside or outside the network. All of the money that goes into the accounts goes into accounts that are insured. Currently, we are in U.S. banks that are all FDIC insured, and every day the balance matches what's in the Expo account, and that will match to the bank. A little bit about the software. You can see that there is a dashboard when the member logs in. The credentials are only to their account. We do permit customers to have more than one account. As I said, the government could have more than one account. The business owner could have more than one account. One would be for taxes, one could be for anything that they designate, but they all have to be under the same credentials in order to be under that one member's name. And but they can have separate account numbers so that they are able to do transactions through different accounts. The way that the software is used for a consumer is primarily on their phone. As you can imagine, most consumers would not be using software on a computer, although they could load their account from their computer, but most of the transactions are done in business facility. And what that's done is each account, it has a unique QR code. When the customer walks up to the cash register or the point of sale system, the transactions are rung up, and then the QR code is scanned at the point of sale. The funds are then withdrawn from the account on the Expo platform, and that transaction is sent directly to the business's account. So there is no lapse in time for the business to receive their funds. Everything is done in real time. Every transaction, I know you can't see very clearly on the register, but every transaction is date and time stamped, and every transaction has the previous balance and the new balance. And it's very similar to online banking, if you're familiar with that. So again, as I mentioned before, transactions moved in real time, and they can go member to member, from consumer to the business, a business to another business, a business to a consumer if they're giving a refund of some sort, or a business to the government so that they can pay fees that are due. And again, this is a visual representation. The movement of the money from the online account, that the funds are put into the account either by a wire, an ACH into the bank account, or they can be done by a consumer using their debit or credit card. We have a specific tab on the application that allows them to upload that information. And then, as I explained, we can do ACH wires or e-checks to go out. We can pay payroll through ADP or any other payroll service by having what we call an outgoing ACH. And then we have a member where they can transfer within the network, and then anyone outside the network can be paid, such as utilities, landlords, cars, title companies, etc. And again, this is payments specifically outside the network. Members can pay bills or each other, and the way that they redeem the credit is for an ACH wire. They go in and they put the routing number and the checking account number of the recipient, just like you do on online banking. The transaction is done in real time, so as they do an ACH or a wire, the funds come out of the account. So the transaction then will show in the register, and the balance will be adjusted as well. E-checks are very similar in that as the e-check is written, the funds come out of the account. The unique feature of this platform, as opposed to other platforms that banks use is that a customer can never send out more money than they have in their account. So we do not have any overdrafts at all. And last but not least, I'm going to talk a little bit about the cash pickup and delivery. And Christopher will go into this a little more deeply. We do have a federally licensed armored carrier that is Covert Armored, Christopher's company, and he is responsible for making sure that only licensed and insured carriers are used, no matter where we have customers. That includes internationally as well. We will exchange that cash for Expo credit, and we make sure that all the rules that are out in that any government agency has put out for FinTech, we follow bank rules, we follow OCC rules, we follow as many rules as we can and that we're required to make sure that every bank that we work with knows that we are, number one, compliance oriented. And again, for the cash logistics, just a touch on that is one of the things that we have provided to our customers and made available to them to purchase is what we call a smart safe. This smart safe is smarter than a smartphone. It's basically a computer within it can be within a point of sale, or it can be a standalone system. And what we do is, if a customer is using a smart safe, we give them what we call provisional credit. And that means that when the funds go into the safe, we then give them credit within 1 or 2, actually it's 2 to 3 days, depending on whether or not they have been with us for more than 60 days. So the transaction day, let's say they put $5,000 into the safe. On that day, plus 3 business days, they will get the credit, even if the cash has not been picked up yet from that safe. So they can accumulate hundreds of thousands of dollars in the safe, but they will have the credit and they can start sending the funds out. The business does not have access to the funds, and only the carrier has the access. So the funds cannot be used while they're in that safe. So once they're in, they're in. And in conclusion, Expo Financial Services, which is the company that we are now, was created to provide unbanked and underbanked businesses with the tools to help them grow. We provide these services after an extensive application process, which usually takes between 24 and 48 hours. I check every rule that there is. Again, I do an internal risk assessment to make sure that it is a customer that is a good match for our business. I have to know what the business intentions are, and the application process basically helps me to understand who they are and what their intentions are. We are a conduit between the Expo member and the bank. We have the bank account in our name, but we do work with the banks to make sure that the banks are comfortable with every transaction that goes through. We have exchanged more than $11 million for Expo credit for our members, and we would like to continue to be able to do that both in the United States and internationally. We do believe that consumers and businesses should have the available tools that help them meet their needs, and that the tools are subject to appropriate oversight and governance. Again, we work with the banks to make sure that the bank knows exactly what we're doing and how we do it. And it is a very transparent process where the bank is allowed to ask any questions about the transactions. And as I've explained to just about every bank that I've talked to, if the bank would ask me the question, I'm happy to answer it because I've probably already asked about it anyway. So that's about all that I have right now. We can open it up now to questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Tina. And as you said, we'll open up to some questions now. Okay, first question. Will there be account managers? And not sure what the and means, but they're they're asking if there are account managers in this system, I believe.
Okay, so right now, the company is very small, but it is growing very, very quickly as we have started to advertise our services. Up until this time, from 2015 until now, or 2017 when I started till now, all business has been by referral only, and I have kept it that way. With the transition to Expo Financial Services, my plan is to, after the first 3 months, to start an advertising program and offer bonuses for and incentives for current customers to bring new customers in. We'll start that, like I say, in about 3 months, and then depending on how that works, then we will bring in account managers as we are growing. Yes.
Okay, again, the same person. They're asking questions about vendors. I believe they probably mean how are vendors paid, and what is the interaction between this fintech solution and vendors? Or
Okay,
maybe that's a
so there are
question
two
for
ways that vendors can be paid. So vendors can either become an Expo member and be paid directly on the platform, or the vendors can be paid by e-check, by ACH, or by wire.
Okay. I'm just looking to see if there are any more questions. We don't see anything else on the chat. So basically, if there are no more questions at this time, we'll just take a short break and be back with the second segment.
You will face challenges in your operations, and security should be one of your most important considerations. For your external and internal security threats, consult with OSSI. We formulate the best solutions for your environment. Email us at ossi.barbados@outlook.com or call 1-246-236-0043. It will be a pleasure to assist you.
Okay, I'm going to unmute you now. Christopher, we were getting a little feedback there from the ad. It's my pleasure now to move into presentation 2, which is the cash logistics section. And again, I will hand over to Mr. Christopher De Gregorian, who will give a short bio at the beginning of his presentation. So over to you, Christopher.
Thank you, Charles, and good evening, everyone. My background is in executive protection, where we've provided close protection to high net worth individuals, captains of industry, and celebrities. Over 30 years experience within that field. My tenure in the cash and transit business started about 7 years ago, where I was with owner of a company where we're providing uniform armed guard services to the cannabis industry in the California market. Since none of the major carriers, i.e. Loomis, Brinks, or Garda, were willing to pick up currency from marijuana-related businesses, we were asked by many of our clients to provide that need. So we started our armored division, working directly with financial institutions that were providing banking services to the cannabis industry in California. So we quickly spread, and I started my company Covert Armored 3 years ago, where we're just focusing on cash and transit services, cash logistics, and executive protection services. I've been working with TINA, Alliance Financial Network, now for about 5 years, where we've been providing all of their cash logistics needs. So first of all, let me give you a little bit of background of our company and what we do and how we do it. Let me get the screen up. Sorry, I'll have a little trouble getting the screen up here. Just give me a moment.
All right. Okay. We'll give you a little time. Hold on.
In the increasingly competitive business environment, the need to create brand awareness and stay top of mind with the market is critical. There is no better way to do this than with engaging and compelling video. CPNet Consultancy offers high-definition video products, which draw attention and converts browsers into buyers. We deliver 3 tiers of production, with optional add-ons. Please view the comparison table to see which option best suits your needs. There are 3 simple steps to a project, and testimonials have been provided.
Okay, we're back with you, Chris.
Okay, so these are the services that Covert Armored is currently providing, not only here in the United States, but also internationally. We are a provider of an end-to-end solution for all the cannabis industry, with turnkey services, including compliance software, compliance site inspections, smart, safe, and recycler solutions, depositories for rural areas with limited CIT access, cash tracking software that can integrate with smart safes, as well as core banking software, cash and transit services, and processing and delivery to the Federal Reserve. With our compliance software solutions, we can provide any financial institution enhanced due diligence on their clients, regular monitoring of all the cannabis licensing and license holders and owners, license requirements that differ by city, county, state, complex onboarding and KYC processes, and especially helping the banking in high cash volumes and their ongoing FinCEN reporting and compliance with the ever-evolving regulatory landscape. So with the compliance software that we can provide financial institutions, we have a cost-saving breakdown right here. So if a bank is banking approximately 150 marijuana-related business customers, they're going to need approximately 10 compliance officers to deal with all the enhanced due diligence that needs to be done. With our software being utilized, those same 150 marijuana-related business customers can be serviced with only 3 compliance officers. So as you can see the cost breakdown there, we're looking at about $850K a year for those 10 compliance officers. Now we reduce them down to 2, we're still going down to $350,000 a year in approximate costs. This is basically what the compliance software solution entails. A little breakdown here of onboarding due diligence, reporting and monitoring, the reconciliation, and cash processing. Within onboarding due diligence, of course, we're covering the KYC, site surveys, BSA/ML, and all their licensing. Within the reporting and the monitoring, we're picking up on any red flags, CTR, SARS reporting, and in the reconciliation, we are integrating directly with their point of sale software. We are monitoring the inventory, their seed to sale, all the cash in transit, and their bank account. Cash processing side, we're integrated with cash deposits, all the supporting software that's tracking all those deposits as well. So as Tina mentioned before, we have implemented a smart safe program. Now, most of the smart safes that are on the market right now are of a lower capacity and read the notes at a lower speed, which we found was not conducive to the cannabis industry since we're cash intensive. So most of your systems out there are maxing out at about 4,000 notes, which was not suitable for our needs. So we searched far and wide for a company and came across a great company called Masterworks that produces the Quan series of safes. And these safes can go up to a 20,000 note capacity. And the validator, which is the system on there that counts the notes, counts at 1,000 notes per minute. So if you've been at a bank and you see the Cummings counting machines that they typically use, this system will actually count faster than those systems. So especially when you're talking about getting a large payment in at once, if you're a cultivator or distributor, you're getting paid large amounts at one time. It's going to save you the ease of counting all those notes by hand, or even using your own counting machine, because basically the smart safe does it all at once. So what a smart safe really is, it's a counting machine and a computer that sits atop a dumb safe. So all that currency is dropped into a secure area within that safe that cannot be accessed. We do have a smaller system that's a little bit more cost effective mainly for retail, where they're not dealing as much in high volumes of currency all at once, to where we have a 10,000 note capacity, and the validating speed is a little bit slower at 600 notes per minute, which is still quite fast. We also saw that there were many smaller businesses out there that couldn't afford your typical cash and transit services for your armored carriers. So we brought forth a solution to where we can service multiple marijuana-related businesses in one spot. So what we did is we created a mobile deposit, a depository that can be set in a shopping mall, any rural location, and it's a secure area where we have our smart safes housed. And all these smart safes we call UL 291. So they have the same security level as any ATM machine. So, with this, each account holder would have their own RFID card, and they would be able to enter the facility where they can make their cash deposit. And the cash is counted, tracked, credited to the specific account of that customer. Once the smart safes have reached their capacity, then the armored carrier would be alerted, and all the currency would be collected. So this is how we can service multiple businesses with one smart safe, or 3 to 4 smart safes that could be housed all in one location. So we also provide a cash tracking software, and this software provides traceability and visibility for cash throughout the entire cycle of the cash process. It integrates cash data with multiple systems, such as the core banking system and the ACH providers, and the merchant POS, the point of sale software. Cash and transit monitors this, service organizations, and as well as the cash vault processing. The device network monitoring assures maximum uptime and reduces the total cost. The cost-effective range solutions for high volume cash environments. And this is a proven system that we're currently processing billions of dollars and over 500,000 deposit events per month. So with our cash and transit services, we do have our own stringent BSA AML policy on top of the bank's policies. We are licensed and insured. With our company, you have a single point of contact, much like Expo. We can provide centrally managed CIT in states where cannabis is legal, as well as any country as well at this time. We do use low profile unmarked vehicles, so we can fly under the radar. Now, obviously when we arrive at your location, it will be a uniform armed guard for identification purposes. But once they're in the vehicle, they just blend right into traffic. And our vehicles are all B6 armored, which means that they are more heavily armored than the large armored trucks you see typically picking up with your large armored carriers. So we do offer processing as well, and virtual vaulting. So we can process and deliver to the Fed on behalf of any financial institution. We can pick up and drop off at the vault of or drop off and pick up a vault of your preference. We've been servicing the cannabis industry for more than 5 years now. We have the latest technologies in counting machines and software managed vaults, and we implement standard operating procedures derived from 29 years of security and executive protection services. So now I would like to go on to talk a little bit about kiosks that we have implemented. So this kiosk was developed specifically to integrate with Expo and Tina's system. So we have multiple options by placing these kiosks within a retail marijuana-related business. And basically what this kiosk is, it replaces your point of sale, your cash register. And it eliminates any cash handling by any of your employees. So we completely eliminate shrinkage. So there's multiple options that we can do with this kiosk. So it, again, replacing your point of sale, your cash register. After the bud tender has totaled out the sale on their side of the device, the customer himself or herself can enter the cash directly in the kiosk. So they're not handing any cash over to the bud tender. They're putting it directly into the device. And to eliminate any coin within this process, these sales can be rounded up to the nearest dollar. So there will be no change that will have to be dealt with or dispensed. The second option that we have with this consumer kiosk is the customer can sign up for an Expo account, which Tina mentioned. Then after the bud tender has totaled up the sale for the customer can now have two choices. They can either enter cash into that kiosk, like the first option, or they can opt to use their Expo account. So the change now will be applied to their Expo account. So now in this process, they won't be rounding up to the nearest dollar. They'll be getting their full change down to the nearest cent. It gives some incentive for the customer to utilize the Expo account. Now, option number 3, which would eliminate cash completely. So the consumer signs up for an Expo consumer account. They will link that account to a debit card or credit card. The funds will be loaded onto their Expo account. The kiosk will scan the barcode that is on the app on their phone, and the funds will be applied to that sale. And all of this is done at the same kiosk. Now, with your marijuana-related businesses, especially your retail businesses, there can be, especially in the early stages of the operations, before there's a lot of competition out there, you're dealing with a lot of customers all at one time. So there can be, a lot of stack up, a lot of frustration, customers leaving and you losing business. So what we have developed in the exact same kiosk, same device that works for all these options is a self-serve kiosk. There are customers that are going to come in and not typically know what they want, and they're going to need to be, advised or educated on the products. But then you have those customers that basically come every week and buying the same product every single time, who just want to get in and out of your business. So with that, we can utilize this kiosk as a self-service kiosk as well, where the customer can use option 1 through 3 at the self-service kiosk. Then they will get a QR code that is printed. Then they can take that to the counter and receive their product. So it'll alleviate, longer lines within your establishment and also give, an added service. So this is the dimensions, of the kiosk. It will count at 600 notes per minute in the validator. All serial numbers of every note can be recorded. It has counterfeit note detection. It can hold 10,000 notes into a heat sealing plastic bag for deposit. And that's the bag that will be retrieved by the armored carrier. It also stores for change, 1,280 notes with 4 drums and 1 cassette with a 15.6-inch display for the bud tender. So for cash in transit on this device, the CIT will monitor remotely, and they will have the sole access to the device. The deposit bag will be retrieved once it's at capacity. The change drum and cassettes will be refilled as needed by the CIT. There will be no commingling of funds since the change is completely separate from the deposit bag. So the money that is collected in for the sale is completely separate from the monies that are being dispensed for change. All right. So I'd like to go ahead and open it up for questions.
Okay. All right. I just see one question from Mr. Burke again. Can your digital drop safe have more than one customer?
Absolutely. We can not only have more than one customer, but as the customers are utilizing the kiosk, obviously as many customers you want. But if we're talking about just for the smart safe itself, yes, we can, with the software that we're utilizing, the API that's running on the device, we can have multiple customers depositing in the same safe. So all those monies will be commingled, obviously, into one deposit bag, but all of it is tracked within the software of what customer is the one that deposited into the bag. So for instance, if you had two different licensees that are in the same location, both licensees will be able to deposit into the same smart safe, and they'll have their own unique QR code or their own unique password where they'll be able, when they do make the deposits into that safe, so it'll track who is depositing what and the amounts, and the proper accounts will be credited. It's just that all the currency will be housed into one receptacle where it'll all be commingled, but in the accounts itself, it'll be separate. And once that currency goes into the smart safe, it is now in the custody of the financial institution. So the commingling of all those funds into one receptacle does not become an issue.
Okay. What I would like to ask Chris is, these solutions work. These solutions work. We have another question that just came in. These solutions work in the United States. We're obviously operating in the CARICOM region, and we just want to assure or state to the audience that these solutions are available within the region. I believe you can explain how the actual pickup and transfer would be done. You would basically affiliate with a local provider to get that done. So maybe what you want to explain a bit more as the solution would be deployed to the CARICOM region.
Absolutely. So we do have partners in that region, armored carriers that we do work with. So once that smart safe or the kiosk is deployed and we are utilizing the Expo system, that carrier will be contracted by me and monitored by me to do all cash collecting from the devices. And they will be processing them as well.
Okay. Are these smart safes online?
Yes, the smart safes are monitored online. Not only that, but the customer themselves are given a portal to where they can go in and they can monitor all the transactions that are happening in the safe. They can actually monitor when the cash is picked up, and they can actually track the cash through the entire system as far as when it's delivered to the vault, when it's counted, validated, and then delivered to the Fed or the bank.
Okay. All right. Well, I have been looking for any more incoming questions. I don't think we see any. So let's just wait and see. Nope, nothing there. We're good.
We gotta turn big dreams into action. We gotta mix action with the passion. Time short, no time for relaxing. Be the first in, last out, make it happen. We gotta turn big dreams into action. We gotta mix action with the passion. Time short, no time for relaxing. Be the first in, last out, make it happen. We gotta turn big dreams into action. We gotta mix action with the passion. Time short, no time for relaxing. Be the first in, last out, make it happen. We gotta turn big dreams into action. We gotta mix action with the passion. Time short, no time for relaxing.
OSSI provides several services for businesses in the medical cannabis industry. These are critical provisions for the industry in Barbados. We start by assisting in your compliance with the licensing application process. Through our strategic partners, the logistics of fencing, power, site preparation, protective shutters and human resource management are facilitated. The physical protection of your cultivated areas and facilities is at the core of our services, and OSSI deploys static and response offices, along with product transport services, all monitored electronically. Just as important as physical security is your cyber protection. This is another service we give high priority. Finally, we are working on our multi-vector platform, which will facilitate the formation of partnerships and agreements between portfolio registrants. Contact us at ossi.barbados@outlook.com for more information. We will be happy to assist you.
Okay, so we're into the final presentation. I see Mr. David Joseph online. Mr. Joseph will deal with the final section of tying everything together. We would have heard presentations from Tina on compliance and the actual setup of FinTech and the digital token system. We have heard from Christopher about the pickup system, the changeover of real to digital currency through the kiosk system, etc., and the actual facilitation of movement of funding. So David is now going to put this all together in a Caribbean context and basically say why we should be looking at FinTech solutions to address some of the barriers that we are experiencing in the commercial banking sector in CARICOM. So David, if you can give them a quick background on yourself and then move into your presentation. Over to you.
Quick is right. Good evening, everyone. Well, basically, I have been an entrepreneur for most of my life. Been involved with multiple areas of marketing, and more recently as a business development representative for a number of international companies, including the Expo platform by Alliance. Now, let me say upfront that David has never been associated with the cannabis industry. It's interesting that I should find myself now helping with the or supporting an industry that I have had absolutely little or no interest in, but dragged, as they say, screaming and fighting and resisting by a very good friend of mine who unfortunately passed away, and who was so involved in serving at the regulatory end. He thought that I could do a good job in providing the support he needed in entering into the Caribbean region with his technologies. At that juncture, I would say that Larry's passing kind of forced me to really sit up and take stock, because he was so committed to it and so involved that I felt obligated to see how I can support and follow on. And so we have looked at the things that I would say he was impressing upon me were so necessary and vital. They have become even clearer as our governments in the region have moved to embrace the cannabis industry. And I think a good fit would be using a technology or technologies, because in truth and in fact, the region represents quite a virgin market. We have had a strong desire for the cannabis industry and more, but because of all the barriers to entry, government primarily following the international trends at the time, we found ourselves coming in at the latter end. And I would say when you look at what Expo does for the industry, we can truly say that throughout the Caribbean, we need to involve our small players, and many of them unbanked as well. But there are a number of a large number of people who have been involved in the industry illegally and who we want to embrace because of their expertise, even as growers. Then obviously you want to provide solutions that will allow government to collect its taxes, and I would say, more serious challenge, that of banking. The all-embracive solution that we have heard here this evening is extremely relevant at this juncture for the region, the entire Caribbean region. And I believe that all of you listening will be quite aware of this. So it really is not a question of if or how, but it's a question of when will we move. And we believe that the solutions presented represent answers to how as well as when. We have issues of security. We heard them, how they can be resolved, how they are being resolved. There are issues involving the actual players, involving the players, registering, monitoring, regulating. Governments need help in this regard. And I dare say that the Expo solution, being not only seed to sale, but to accounting, provides a critical link that we believe will be embraced and is extremely relevant. Our situation is no different really from what's happening in the United States, Canada, or even in Europe. What we can say is that its relevance is because we are now at the cusp of the industry. And if we can embrace best practices, we have heard some best practices this evening. Solutions that have been tried, solutions that are working, and solutions that can be so simplified and adapted as to be able to fit into a situation or in small markets like ours here in the Caribbean, making it very easy for the industry to take off, really, and to take off securely, to take off without the challenges of banking and being de-risked and that kind of thing. So as we speak, we are seeing quite a bit of interest at the regulatory end, and we might say at the production end as well. We have a number of applicants in the field right now, at least, I would say number of applications before our own government here in Barbados. The big issue for government is how do they proceed so as not to create any problems either at the banking end or in their own area, taxation, so that they can get their piece of the pie? Expo answers, or I hope has answered your questions very clearly, how the challenges can be met, and all your security issues. I believe Chris um, has identified very clearly how this solution can be very effective, especially at the onset of the industry. Need I say more, Charles? Is there anything you can add for me?
I see a question coming in, so we can go straight to that question segment, which you would just respond to that when it pops up. Okay. How can I access the expo and or security services for my medicinal cannabis business in the Caribbean? Well, let's see. That sounds like a Tina question. Are you still online, Tina?
Yes, I'm here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the question was, how can I access the expo and or security services for my medicinal cannabis business in the Caribbean?
So right now we are working to get a bank account in the Caribbean because it will be much easier to have an account right there to bring the cash to. When an account is opened on the Expo platform, I will then contact Covert Armored, Christopher's company, to arrange for the services to start for cash pickup. And if the business is interested in having a smart safe, Christopher will work with the business on that as well. So as soon as I have a bank account in the Caribbean that will be convenient for that purpose, we will let everyone know so that we can start the onboarding process.
Okay. This sounds like a Christopher question. Can you summarize again the process of collecting the money to deposit and accessing funds from the bank to pay expenses? Christopher, if you could jump in on that one, please. I think one of the main questions here is, fine, when we are dealing internally with the movement of finances, even across borders, it's one thing. But when you got to pay for local goods and services and pay your staff and stuff like that, I guess we need to find out a little bit more on what it means at the grassroots level for the business owner here, his employees, and how does it fit into the business workflow?
Sure. So either utilizing the kiosk or the smart safe, once the currency is entered into the device, within 2 to 3 business days, the account holder will be credited. So that currency will be credited on their Expo account. Once they have that currency credited on their Expo account, then they can ACH, they can wire, they can send an e-check to make all their payments via that account. So as far as the cash collecting process, once it's entered in the device, it is now the property of Expo, Vista Business Solutions, that currency. So the processes of when it goes from the smart safe or the kiosk to get to the bank is actually a process for Vista Business Solutions and Expo, not the customer. The customer is given the credit 2 to 3 days after that currency is entered into the smart safe or the kiosk.
Okay. One more question. If I need a smart safe, how long will it take to have one delivered to Barbados?
Well, right now, if we have that current model in stock, we're probably looking at about 2-week delivery time. If we don't have that model in stock, we're looking at about a 5-week turnaround time.
Okay. And the next question. Will I have to purchase any software to access the Expo services? I think we'd answered that before, but you can go ahead and answer that again.
Sure. So there is
That's
no
a Tina
purchase.
question, yeah.
Yeah, there's no purchase of the software. There are monthly fees that we charge, and there are also transaction fees, but there are no software purchase fees.
Okay, so these monthly fees and these monthly transaction fees, they will be ongoing for the length of the contract with Expo or whatever company.
Right. It depends on the business. There's a lot of things that go into the pricing of the monthly service, but the monthly service fee is dependent on the type of business that's being brought onto the platform. So I would need to know some more information about the business itself and the dollars that would be going through the account. There's a lot that goes into, and that's why there's a very comprehensive application process so that we can determine the monitoring that will be required for the account, the cash logistics that will be required for the account, et cetera. So there are several items that go into determining the fee.
Okay. I don't see any more questions. So we'll just take a final break and moving to the next segment. Okay, so we're going to just go over to the Lotto section where if there were any entries, we'll check the Lotto page and see if any entries had come in during this time. At that point in time, the system will automatically do a draw and a winner will be selected. Well, it looks as though there were no entries on that. So that makes it fairly straightforward. What we are basically at the end of the presentation. So I'll just get into the vote of thanks, because we've had a very pleasant evening, a very informative evening, and hopefully the viewers were able to have some queries answered, some questions answered, and we hope to hear in due course from persons who would be interested in finding out a little bit more on the cannabis solutions, the medicinal cannabis solutions, in terms of getting their funding to move across borders and to be able to overcome the challenges of commercial banking. So I want to, at this point in time, thank the panelists and the audience for their time and input into the program. I hope it was informative, and I just want you guys to look out in the future for another webcast, which will be on one of the other challenges of the medicinal cannabis industry, which will be insurance. So again, thank you for watching, and a pleasant and safe good evening to all.